Yeah, hi everyone. I feel a little embarrassed and humbled by the introduction of like my background and all the stuff I did, because in part the practices just show me. This is a little aside from the topic I'm going to produce that I'm going to share tonight, but I realized as I heard the different things I went, the schools I went to, the degrees and what I did, and that it was also that the practice showed me that was actually in part a lot of this achievement energy that came from being an immigrant and perhaps my family, a lot of conditioning around that. So some of it is not all that wholesome. It was just like trying to get ahead and survive. I mean, too busy and too much striving. So just really grateful right now for the teachings, the Buddha's teachings, to just be here in the present moment, and that there is enough here, right here, to be happy. So that's something I'm continuing to learn, as well as the theme that I wanted to share with you tonight, which is on Shanti, the Paramita of patience or inclusiveness. So paramitas or paramitas is the Sanskrit, and paramis is the Pali word for what we call the perfections of the heart, or that may sound a little daunting, perfections. So another way I like to talk about this is just the qualities that we have already innately, sort of qualities like generosity, the capacity to give and receive, which I heard already tonight in Sangha, the earlier part of our sitting, and Michael offering, leading us, and we're responding and just offering each other our presence here. That's generosity showing up here today. And Shila is the second paramita, which is also called morality, ethics, or the mindfulness trainings in Thay's practice. The third one is patience. The fourth is energy or perseverance, the effort that we put in to continue to come back. Like we're not daunted by the fact that we lose awareness, that we lose mindfulness, that we lose our patience. We remember, oh, right, it's just part of being human and it's okay. We just come back to the path, come back to being patient, take a breath again and start again. That's really the key to the practice, to keep returning, to keep staying, and the path welcomes us. It's here. The breath is here. The moment is right here for us to wake up. And the fifth paramita is meditation, or the cultivation of these mental qualities, the practice that we just did of sitting, walking. These are formal practices, but they could also be informal ones. As long as I put our mind and awareness into it, and like washing dishes, being with our children, to know that we're aware of that in itself, that is also meditation in an informal sense. So it encompasses both the cultivation of formal practices in the Dharma hall and also informal practice in our everyday life. And the last of the paramita is called wisdom. And this is sort of like equanimity, wisdom, pretty much sort of the fruit of our practice. And sometimes with wisdom, I still feel very much like a beginner. I still learn a lot from my teachers, from reading, studying the discourses, and this is one way to learn about wisdom, to borrow it from those who are more experienced, or that we see more wise than us. Wisdom could also come from our everyday practice, just from our learning, from our aha, right. I could pause right here. Take a breath, checking in. Yeah, I'm leaning forward a little bit. Maybe there's a little greediness. I really want to get everything. So we check in and we know like that's wisdom too. We begin to have these also our own pearls of wisdom when we check in. So those are own. So there are different sort of ways to gain wisdom or have a wisdom arise for us. So these are the 6 paramitas. And this is something that it wasn't like written or talked about when Buddha was teaching. It came about much later that people describe and thought, who is this guy, Buddha? Who is this teacher that was so magnificent and passed on these wisdom and teachings and practices? And they said he was somebody who embodied these qualities of the heart. It was something that was cultivated or probably over multiple lifetimes. So today I'm going to talk about Kshanti, what's also known as patience or inclusiveness. And, the challenge perhaps, or the question here I want to pose to you, or just to drop into it to think, hey, what if this is what I'm going to practice the rest of my life? Like this is not something to check off, say, oh, I'm patient right here, good. I'm generous, check. I've done it, ethical, done it, the 5, It's instead of that, to think about it, to bring it into our it's something to be cultivated over the lifetime. This lifetime, if we believe there are multiple other lifetimes, then, other lifetimes until it becomes so embodied that patients become us, become so sort of second, like default, so that we don't even have to think about, oops, I really should be patient right now. Yeah, it's a very humbling thing. I feel like to learn about this and also to feel like I have time. I can take my time to learn this, practice to the extent that is meaningful to me. And then there's a certain joy, a certain, goodness that is felt from it, that I feel like continues to sort of fuel us, continue to bring nourishment to this practice and help us to continue to stay on the path. So patience can be, all these paramitas actually can be very powerful to prepare us to go deeper into practice. It purifies our mind, sort of purify, meaning like purify them from the so-called these poisons of delusion, of greed, of aversion or hatred. It was also taught to the monastics there to say, hey, go practice the paramis and then come back to the monastery. They can also be seen as a protection, a resource, something that you could actually call upon, right? So in terms of patience, there are 3 kinds of patience. And one, I think that so the first one is patient in terms of perseverance. I hope this rings true for you, like being patient, to continue to do something, even when you feel like, oh, I'm bored, or, oh, I don't know if I got this, or, oh, I don't know if I want to keep meditating, or I don't, like these doubts that arise, but that you persevere, you remember your intention, and you remember the goodness of that. And you bring patience, you call forth patience to come and support you in this. So this sort of patient perseverance. And the second kind of patience is the patience under insult. So when you get triggered, or somebody cut you off right in the middle of traffic, or you're going about your own way, and you get an email or something, someone says something really unkind to you, or respond to you with an angry tone or impatient tone, or something that you feel like, wait, I don't deserve that. What's going on here? And immediately, like there's a certain surge of energy that arises within you, within me when that happens, that's sort of being triggered. So this is where you say, oh, patience. That's where I'm practicing patience. So how would I respond here? So right here, there was a pause. I took a breath in and I release. Like even in noticing when I'm recollecting, describing this to you, I find myself, my body tensing up, describing the patients under insult, because this happens to us. Yeah, I'm just so busy these days with my 88-year-old mother coming to live with me, and I have a 17-year-old, youngest is 17 at home, and a partner who just had surgery. So the sink is full of dishes, and at the end of the night, it's like, oh, even that felt a little insulting to me. And it's like, oh, yeah, patience. What does that mean here in this moment? The very first thing for me usually is just to pause, take a breath, noticing the contraction and the tightness in the body. And how wonderful it is to have this breath, this ability to just self-regulate with each exhalation, a certain letting go. And remember, I just do what I can right now. Maybe I'll sit down, have a cup of tea first before doing the dishes. Or asking my 17-year-old to come and help. So the last kind of patient is patient in terms of accepting the truth. Acceptance of truth. Now you might ask, what does this mean? Why do we need to be patient, accepting truth? How does it come up? So perhaps you can recall a moment when someone tell you something that's truthful that you don't like to hear. I am laughing right now. I'm thinking about the 5 remembrances that the Buddha tells us to recite every day to remember. I don't like to hear those truths, but practicing patience. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. I guess I'm curious if anybody, can I open up the mic to see if people know, do people remember the 5 remembrances? We're of the nature to
grow
old,
sick,
be sick,
get sick,
yes, we're of the nature to sicken,
to die and to lose loved ones.
yes, to die and to lose loved ones. And the last one is actually a bit more uplifting in terms of that we actually have the ability to the karma. We can pause and respond to what's happening around us. We can actually, even though these things are almost, these are truths, right? But we actually have the ability to know that what we do makes a difference. It has an impact. It can affect future events. So these truths are not that pleasant, but if we can meet them with patience, and what does that mean? To have a certain openness, right? To breathe with that, to let that be received. Let that come into our consciousness. It's incredible what that can do, actually. When my favorite mug breaks, I can remember, that's right, it's of the nature to break. Right, it's made of material that's going to break sooner or later. which are more likely is my tooth. I've had this dental work for over a year or 2 years. I'm on the second year now. So the nature that tooth will be, it's also the body is a nature to die, to decay, it's just the body. This is what it means to be alive. And when my children grow and don't, especially as teenagers, don't want to talk to me and want to be as far as they can from me, I remember, oh, that's right. It's aging. I don't need to take this personally. So this is also what I mean as I talk about patience as sila. This part about accepting the truth. I'm sorry, not patient with sila, but patient as a wisdom practice that offers liberation, is because when we're patient, we can also begin to widen our perspective. We make time, we make space for what is truthful here. And we notice our reactivities, our resistance to it, because sometimes it's really unpleasant. We want things to last for a really long time, especially things we love and people we love. Relationship, when they work, it's wonderful. We don't want impermanence when things going our way. But if we're remembering that things don't last, that this is actually a truth, that when that comes, then it's no longer such a surprise. We can meet it less with reactivity, but can bring a sense of like, oh, so it's like this. Yeah. We can just be with it and do what we need to do to attend to the loss, to keep up with my teenage kids, to just, sweep up the broken mug and not, curse myself for my clumsiness or who did this, who blaming somebody for breaking my favorite mug, this and that. Yeah. We can avoid a lot of conflict that way. So that's the part about this practice of patience, bringing this wisdom, to pause and notice if somebody here, a friend or even news, right? Where there's so much polarity right now, people having different views from us, and sometimes things can get really quite heated. If we can pause there, noticing our own view. Yeah, boy, what would it mean to be patient with someone else's view? Not easy. I have to confess that every time I pause and remember, oh, I'm practicing patience. I'm not patient. It's like I remember I'm not patient in the moment. It's like it comes up so often. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention was patience as a sila practice. And sila is about non-harm, right? What does that mean? How do you practice? How does patience bring about non-harm? Yeah. So, and I want to say this came about, and I'm offering this practice today because I'm sincerely practicing it. It came about because a couple of weeks ago, I could say that I lost my patience with my 17-year-old. She was late to something. I was supposed to drive her and have something else that was scheduled after I drop her off at her activity. And then she was playing some video game and I was standing at the door, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, bordering on 15 minutes. And so when she was finally ready, we were closing the doors and shutting lights off. And I was like jumping around, like it was like marching, like with lots of energy, closing the door really loudly. And my voice was really coarse and tight. And we got in the car. I drove her there. She said, she apologized. Like, Mom, really sorry that it took me so long, blah, blah. And I said, yeah. But you can just learn about it next time not to do it again. And we started to process it a little bit more. And I didn't realize she was scared. She said it was scary when you close the door so hard. And yeah, that really touched me. I don't want to be a scary person. I don't want to be a cause for harm or for unnecessary suffering. Like, what was that? Just a 10, 15 minute, yeah, like, whoa, like it's just that, her feedback to me, her feeling scared by that. So since then, I made a vow, I made a commitment to practice patience. And then I thought to myself, what are those conditions then? I don't want to end up in the last minute when things already erupted and say, oh, I wish I were more patient. I wish, blah, blah, blah. You know, what are the conditions that lead to patience? And what are the conditions that lead to impatience? This is also, I think it's the 5th mindfulness training about mindful consumption or wise effort, about, you know, what leads to something to arise. What is it that we're practicing? Wise effort, allow something to arise, for the goodness, the wholesome to arise. And what leads to the non-arising of something that's negative, that's unwholesome. So I thought I thought about it, I thought I would start with slow driving. I do tend to be a fast driver, and I start to notice I was in someone else's car, a friend's car, and she was perfectly okay driving behind someone else who also seemed to be a slow driver. And she had no qualms about just hanging out. Like, she didn't need to pass that person. And I'm laughing because I thought, boy, my habit is, let's not waste any time. Time is money. I mean, my father's voice is so clear to me there. Also, you know, I want to chalk it up at being immigrant. Maybe you have other stories and conditioning. But for me, it's like, you know, time is money. You've got to make sure you don't waste anything. And so I had to, so I'm slowly just learning about that. Actually, it's relaxing to just let it, you know, just sort of sit back and, all right, I'll just drive slowly. And there are times when I'm late, and that's where it gets crunchy, where it gets kind of tight. So I'm like, so then when that happens, okay, I am kind of late, or we're very tight on time. So I am going to drive faster, but I'm going to see if I could be patient while moving fast. So I'm reminding myself of that. I use the steering wheel as so the anchor, you know, right, the breath. Sometimes when driving, I'm like, okay, here, this is my reminder here, just staying steady here. So we could do this with a lot of different things too. You can notice when you're eating, whether you're eating with impatience or with patience, and start to get to know, when does patience arise, when does it not be there. Let's see. I think I'm supposed to go into have 1 more minute left. So maybe I'll just offer this little quote from Martin Luther King that also inspires me to practice patience, as well as all these other paramis. And here it is. He says, in a real sense, all life is interrelated. All men, people, women, and all people, I want to use the non-binary, all women, all people are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. I wanted to bring in this interrelatedness, this interbeing that we're taught too by Thich Nhat Hanh, that, you know, what we do matters. And the qualities in which we carry out what we do makes a huge difference So the quality of patience, and the other paramis, generosity, sila, ethics, doing no kindness and not harm, the quality of perseverance, energy, continuing, the quality of calm state of mind, meditation, and the quality of wisdom, the wisdom in the moment. So this is what we're practicing for. So that when things come in from the left field in the everyday life, or even bigger transitions, events that happen, we can meet that moment with these paramis already here with us, reminding us and supporting us. So as I end today, I want to thank you for listening, and may the merit of these teachings, of our practice today, our listening, and may this sharing be of support to the realization of the path and its fruit for all beings, none accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Yenkuei.